Business Brain, episode 554 for Casual Friday, May 31st, National Savior Hearing Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take a few ideas or one idea and we run through it. We discuss it. We dissect it. We use it to tune our business brains every single time we get together. Our sponsor for this episode is at fastmail.com/businessbrain. That's where you can go to get 10% off your first year and 30 days for free. It's my favorite email service. I've been using it for like 5 years or maybe more. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And in Lafayette, California, I'm Shannon Jean. How you doing, man? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah. It's, here we are.
End of the month, almost June.
That's right. It'll be June within less than 24 hours after this episode comes out.
Marching forward, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's National Savior Hearing Day, folks.
Yeah.
So I will offer one piece of advice to you, the person listening, just you, right there, not anybody else. You grab the volume knob, turn it down a little bit. I do this all the time. I've started doing this all the time. I just finished a weekend where I was played like 8 shows in a 5-day period or something. And every time I went and sat down and put my ears in, I would take the master volume and turn it down a little bit. Because I might grab it during the performance in a moment where I need to hear something a little louder, and you turn it up and you get that volume creep. Always just kind of reset, turn down.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Speaking of,
yes,
I just did. Well, say what you were going to say.
I wish my 25-year-old self had gotten that advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do 2 other podcasts on a regular basis. I do Mac Geek Gab for like Q&A for Apple users, and then I do Gig Gab for working musicians. And last week I did an episode of Gig Gab that I guess actually this week, it's out this week. I'm trying to remember what week we're in here because I record things in advance. This week, the episode of Gig Gab is just me. Normal for years, it's just as old as this show. Literally launched the first episode on the same day.
It's awesome.
Yep, 9+ years. And for the first almost 8.5 years, whatever it is, I had a co-host. We talked about it on the show. He left because of scheduling reasons. He comes back occasionally. And the first episode I did after he left, I did alone. I was very nervous going into that.
It's a different experience without a co-host. I agree.
It very much so. I planned an agenda, which I do anyway, but I had to pace like, okay, well, I'm going to be the one talking all the way through. So can I maybe play an audio clip of a microphone that I'm testing or something to break it up a little bit. Yeah. And then since then I've had a slew of guests. I have sort of a group of people that are on regularly, and then I've have some, one-off guests here and there. And it had been, almost 6 months since I had done a solo episode, and there was a lot I wanted to debrief on from things that we'd learned from our various guests over the previous 6 months. And so I did. I did this solo episode, and as I was going into it and planning it, I thought, I'm going to take a slightly different approach if I can and break from the speaking generically, even though I'm thinking of an avatar every time, to actually just talking to my one listener that's listening. Now, I know there's more than one person who downloads the show and listens, but for you, the listener, the experience is it's you. That's it. There's no other people. I mean, if you're listening with somebody else in the car, then there's 2 of you. Hi. But otherwise, it's just you. And so having the conversation that way really allowed me to focus the episode in a different way and get the feedback that I wanted to get, which was like, hey, I've been doing this thing, talking to all these other people for 6 months, 9 years, if you want to count it that way. I want to take a detour from that for one episode and talk to you and share with you my favorite things that I've learned from these last 6 months.
Yeah.
And it not just rehashing it, but digesting it, reinterpreting it. Like, hey, we had this conversation. I talked with this person about how to do this thing with sound. Here's how I learned that, here's my takeaway from that, like those kind of debriefs. And so I did little, maybe 6 or 8 of those and then reviewed some gear, but it was really geared towards you, one person. And as opposed to talking to a guest or a co-host or whatever, which is what you and I normally do. Very different experience. And the feedback that I've gotten has been really interesting and valuable.
Yeah.
Because I asked people, I said, hey, what did you like about the show for the last 6 months? What other kinds of guests would you like to see? Which conversations weren't that interesting to you? Let me know. And it's been helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
I know that even a show with guests, people don't subscribe because of one guest or even multiple guests. They subscribe because of the host.
Yeah. And I think that concept of really talking to one person is, I'm glad you remind me of that because, I want to be like the average listeners. You know what I mean? When I'm driving somewhere and I'm listening to a business podcast or I'm listening to a story podcast, whatever it is, that's the person I want to talk to. I had this vision in my head when we started, Business Brain about somebody up late at night, struggling, trying to think about how do I start a business or how do I even start a side hustle? I need extra money for X and get going. And that is the person I want to talk to and give advice to because I was that person, right?
Yes.
And I know some people would say, well, you should talk to yourself 5 years ago or whatever, kind of thing.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, I I have a hard time with that too. Excuse me. But I like this concept and it would be interesting and if you could get that feedback, like, was it different for your listeners? Did they sense a different tone or a deeper connection with you? Or, because sometimes I do this show and I love it. I'm like, man, that was awesome. And it was super powerful. And I learned so much. And other times I think, I don't think that was that good. Just to be honest. And I was like, well, it was just all right. And then someone will come back and be like, oh man, that one thing you shared was so great. And I was like, really? Yep. Well, that's why I do it, just so we can talk. And it helps me. I always say I learn the most.
Right.
It helps me flush out ideas and concepts. And then I learn a ton from, Dave talking to him and a ton from our guests when we have them. But it's interesting. I would love to learn more about what people get out of, what we put out there.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, feedback@businessbrain.show.
Please, yes, let us know. What do you like? What don't you like? What would you like to see more of, less of? Those things are super valuable because we do create this show for us, and we realize that we attract people that are interested in the same things or similar things to us. That makes perfect sense. That's sort of podcasting in a nutshell. But we can tweak it. Our interests are varied, and we're a family here. We want to make sure everybody's getting something out of this. So yeah, feedback at businessbrain.show. All right, folks. What's just as important as having a great business idea? Having a reliable email provider that keeps your work and personal life running smoothly. I've been using our sponsor, Fastmail, for over 5 years now, and let me tell you, it's like having a superpower in my inbox. Fastmail is an independent, employee-owned email provider that's been rocking the email world for over 20 years. No ads, no creepy data sharing, just a clean, premium inbox experience with features that save you time. And for as little as $5 a month, you can get in on this magic. Need to manage your business and personal emails separately? Great. Fastmail's got you covered with their multi-user plans. Their Duo plan is perfect for you and a partner, and the family plan can handle up to 6 people. Plus, their business plan offers powerful admin controls for your whole company. Fastmail helps you organize your inbox with features like scheduled send, snooze, and custom swipes. And with their 24/7 human support team, you're never alone in the email jungle. So if you're ready to upgrade your email game, check out Fastmail, because a charmed life starts with a charming inbox. Make email better for you with Fastmail. Try Fastmail free for 30 days and then get 10% off your first year at fastmail.com/businessbrain. Again, Fastmail for free for 30 days, 10% off your first year at fastmail.com/businessbrain. And our thanks to Fastmail for sponsoring this episode. So, Shannon, I mentioned that in the last episode that I had just done, or maybe earlier in this episode, I don't know. I can't remember. I get so confused.
Last week or last Wednesday.
Yeah, on Wednesday. But I just finished doing 8 shows in a row. I'm a drummer. When I say shows, I was playing the drums, and it was crazy. We had 8 shows between Wednesday and Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, and then on Monday I had nothing, which was nice, and much needed. And as I was getting ready to do this show, I always sit and think about. I use this show and others to sort of reflect on my previous week and are there any things that might be good topics? And I started thinking, well, I seem to be either it's all or nothing with my schedule. I'm either overloaded or underloaded, right? And what is middle ground? I started asking myself, and I started thinking, well, do I want that though? I know it's not what I create for myself. That's for sure, right? It's I'm either totally packed and overloaded, or I have too much time and it's hot or cold. And I started thinking, well, maybe that's best though, because if I had the same sort of consistent load on my schedule all the time, I think I might get bored.
Yeah.
This is where this idea of, I called it balancing chaos. You called it balance and chaos, which I liked better.
This is where, when you mentioned that, I made the comment, when I'm in the midst of one, I yearn for the other.
Yes.
Right. And so that may be a natural correction in the sense that, like many people, I enjoy the routine, but when I get too much of the routine, I get in a rut. And if you haven't listened to the show before, I always say a rut is just a grave with 2 ends kicked out of it. And so you need to change things up. And so then I like to turn on the chaos nozzle and take on something new, or experiment, or, take a risk, or do something that I'm not sure about. It makes me nervous. It might embarrass me. And just think what you could do if you never got embarrassed. That's another topic. But anyway.
That whole dance like nobody's watching, man.
God, it's so true. Yeah. So, I like both as well. I had a crazy weekend at the same time, had a grad party for my son. Then we had a couple other events and everything. And, I finally, at the end of the day yesterday, sat down on the back deck to watch the Giants game with my wife. And I sat there and I opened a beer and I turned to her and I said, this is what I wanted to do all weekend. But it wasn't like I didn't have a good time doing those other things.
Right.
And they weren't super, they were awesome. But I often find myself when I'm in the midst of those kinds of things going, God, I just can't wait till, even though I'm having a great time, it'll be so nice when this is done. And, when you entertain at your house, it's chaos, and people are there late, and are the whole kitchen was destroyed.
It's a mess.
I was up I smoked a brisket, Friday night. I was up all night tweaking, doing this, doing that. And I love that. And that I look forward to it. But man, the idea of getting to the other side of it was great too. So maybe that's a reflection of this, this cliche, it's all about the journey, right? It's being in it. Because I could tell you, I like this phrase.
When I was doing the shows, as I was playing each show, I loved it. I mean, it wasn't like, oh man, I can't wait till this is over. It was more different. Like the morning of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I got 2 shows today.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just got to make it through these.
And
Yeah, and then you get in it and it's like, all right, I'm here, I'm doing the thing. And then yes, when I do get to the other side, it's like, oh, this is nice,
Yeah.
But if I had nothing all day, you'd be
bored, man.
I'd be bored and like
Yes.
antsy about that too. So I don't actually want only the alternative. And that and then that's what got me to thinking about balance. And it was like,
balance.
well, what version of balance do I want? Maybe that's the question, because there's a version that just becomes, it's the same every day.
It sucks.
I like, even as I say it out loud, you
I
crystallize
despise
my
it.
thoughts.
I despise it. And I will tell you this from a perspective of a 58-year-old. I got to the other side of the grind, I like to call it.
Sure.
About 10 years ago in my mid to late 40s. And retirement really should be defined, in my opinion, on now you're free to do what you really want, not stop. Now you can really hang it out there and really experiment and really take more risks. And that, I think, is analogous to this concept that you're, this thesis, if you will, that you're kind of teasing out, that you can easily get stuck in this too much balance, and, not too much, and I'm going to get excited because I'm going to pick out what breakfast I'm having. That's not good.
Not for me.
Not for me either.
If that's the definition of retirement, then I've never worked.
Yeah, that's right. I feel the same way. But but I do feel like you've accumulated more resources to kind of throw the rope out a little further, if you will. And
no, that's absolutely true.
Today. But so you could do that thing, and it is it's balance and chaos, and the chaos is often the exciting part that makes you value that balance.
It gives you interesting
more.
Stories, that's for sure.
It certainly gives you. No one wants to sit here and talk about, and then, for 8 hours I sat on the deck and did nothing. I read a book and it was so great. And that is great. I love doing that.
Yeah, but there's not a story there. But
there's no story there. No. It's, and then I had to do this, and then we had to go visit this place, and I learned all about buying suits, which is another scam. And then I learned this and I did that, because I don't ever want to. I made a lot of comments because I was buying a suit for my daughter's wedding coming up in a few months. And during that process, I kept thinking, I am so fortunate that I have not had to wear clothes like this most of my quote adult life.
Yes.
That, I can 90% of the time wear shorts and a t-shirt, which I happen to be wearing right now.
Yep.
And so, that's a story in itself. But I mean, so I believe you got to sprinkle the chaos, bust things open every once in a while.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling in a rut, I had a guy message me today that he wants some help and wants to schedule a call because he's stuck, and there's a lot of ways to get unstuck. And sometimes it's little tiny things. And I always recommend people switch sides of the bed that they sleep on to start, right? Because it seems so easy. But when's the last time? It
changes everything.
Yeah. When's the last time you switched with your spouse or just yourself? Just to get up on the other side of the bed and have that different perspective starting in the morning. Yeah. And people look at me like
I do it every time I'm in a hotel. My wife is not interested. She does not subscribe to the idea of switching sides of the bed.
Most people don't.
I try often, but it doesn't work. But so when I'm in a hotel, I sleep often, not always, but on the side that I don't. I wake up on the other side of the bed, and it I don't know. It's good to change your brain up a little bit.
It's just something. Yeah, little things. It's little things. Because those little things trigger the bigger things to get you maybe to embrace some more of that chaos
the trigger for me is that it reminds me that no habit is best left untested.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. It's best left. That's good. That's good.
You might test it and realize, nope, there's a reason I do things that way, and I'm going to continue. Okay, or I'm going to resume. But changing it up is the only way you know for sure that the way you're doing it is the best. The idea, and I know we've said this on the show, but the whole idea of We do it that way because we've always done it that way. Huge red flag, right?
Yeah,
you gotta go.
I'm out.
I'm out. Yep.
I'm out. When people start talking like that, that's nuts.
Bad news.
Bad news. But so I mean, how do you balance chaos and the balance of your routine in your life, and how can you share it with us so we can share it with our listeners? Feedback@businessbrain.show or DM us up on the X platform @BizBrainShow.
Feedback@businessbrain.show, @biz, B-I-Z, Brain Show on X. And you can find us on all the other platforms too, of course. Thanks for hanging out with us again this week, folks. Tell a friend about the show, please, and keep living that charmed life. We'll see you next week.